All right. Good evening. I'd like to bring the July 23rd Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Good evening, everybody. Just a little housekeeping. Ashley Siebold won't be here at the meeting tonight. She is not feeling under the weather, so she will not be attending. But we've got lots of other folks here, VIPs over here making appearances. So we are going to start off tonight with an update from Sam, Adam, and Chief Cobb on the DPW site on Pleasant Street and plans moving forward.
Okay, so I think it's up on the screen, and I brought you copies tonight. Sorry that we were not more together to get you the memo ahead of time, but it was a late in the day effort. So we wanted to give you an update on where we are with the exploration of the Public Works facility on the whole and how that pertains to both Sam's needs for replacing the facility at some point and if there's room to accommodate the police station. I think the three of us were excited when that idea came up at the meeting because unbeknownst to the folks in the audience who brought it up, we had been working on that concept for a couple of weeks behind the scenes, wondering if there was potential there and starting to get the ball rolling. So the fact that it appeared to have wide community support and selectmen behind it helped to tell us we were on the right path. So as everyone is probably aware, there's a transmission line that bisects the property. It goes from the substation in the rear of the property and then hits Pleasant Street and crosses and essentially follows the Linebrook Trail for a ways. And this easement provides a pretty wide swath, 100 feet, that really cuts the property in half. And so our primary question was, what can we do within that easement? Can that easement be moved? What flexibility do we have with it? As that really dictates what flexibility we have with the land as a whole. So we immediately reached out to Eversource. For those who aren't aware, Eversource has a municipal liaison that we use as our community contact. They really advocate for community's needs, and they really help to sort of connect us on the inside of Eversource, which is obviously a very large corporation. And so he was able to help set us up with an initial site visit. That initial site visit was very enthusiastic. We went over a very wide array of potential options, which we've outlined in the memo. Everything from, does this substation really even need to be here? Could the substation be moved? Could we move the actual transmission lines? Could the transmission lines be relocated underground? Can you build under the easement, but not under the maybe 15 to 20 feet that the actual power lines exist on? Is there a way to reroute it on land you already own or land Eversource already owns? Because they have a little finger of land from the substation to Pleasant Street. Not sure why that just crashed, but hopefully that comes back. That actually our salt or our sander bodies are hanging in their land. At some point, we've apparently encroached on their property, but they use our property to access. So at this point, that does not seem like a problem. So we had the initial site visit, and it was the three of us, Kim, and a variety of people from Eversource, and we've sort of given you in here who was there and what their specialties were, the real estate specialist, the community liaison, and the project manager. And then from there, they went and did some work on their end, and then we had a virtual meeting with the sub-team of the real estate manager and the municipal liaison. They gathered some more information from us about just sort of concept level designs of if we were to accommodate both facilities, where did we sort of see that falling, to give them an idea of what kind of flexibility they might be working with. Things stayed fairly positive, I would say, at that point. And then from there, they set up a third site visit several weeks later on site with the engineering team, the transmission engineering team. And so Sam and I went out and met with the engineers, the community liaisons, and the real estate specialist to talk about actual feasibility, more, not just concept, what are the actual electrical currents and all the things that are far above our knowledge base, And unfortunately, the outcome of that meeting was less enthusiastic. They need to keep the substation there. It does seem like there's a little bit of flexibility to alter the substation lot lines a little bit. It's a funky shape, and we have kind of a point of land, which if this, for some reason this is not working, but we could show you. But I don't think that really buys us anything significant to do that. It's probably something that if they are willing to do, it doesn't hurt to get a little bit more of our land back if, for whatever reason, I don't think it's going to change feasibility of this project one way or the other. It says it's connecting, so maybe we'll get this image back. But essentially, the only question that we do not have an answer to yet that leaves some viability in place is whether or not we can build under the 100-foot easement, just not under the power lines. Primarily because the relocation method, which they have proposed a path, takes it around the northwest boundary of the property, would require obtaining either rights or a lot line adjustment to the abutter's land to the northwest, and then rerouting through the Lion Brook Trail parcel. Obviously, sorry, let's see if this works. Obviously, under a transmission line, you have to keep the vegetation to a very low amount. You're probably familiar with the long Newport Road when that gets cut every few years, or for some when it's abutting you. And that's not ideal in the Lion Brook Streams buffer, which in the memo there's a picture. The second figure shows you what that buffer is. It essentially comes up to the lot line of the Public Works parcel. We own that other parcel that it's over. It's hard to see. It's a blue on our database. But it doesn't seem like that would be a popular decision or a prudent decision to relocate the transmission lines over something as sensitive as Lion Brook with the trails. So at this point, we have the unanswered question of can we build under the easement, but not under the transmission lines, and could you move the line to an area that we didn't feel like was our best option. They gave us reasons for why they can't go underground for transmission lines like this. As far as maintenance, for the amount of voltage, it's very difficult, and for such a short amount, they would not be on board with that. So it provides some complexity. As you can see in the diagram that has the different colors on it, the current lower shop, the easternmost corner touches the easement, and then on the current upper shop, the westernmost corner touches the easement. And so they're sort of set right there where they kiss the easement. In addition to the Eversource easement, the sewer lines run along the boundary there in front of like the sand piles and the sand where the sanders hang. And so there's 25 feet of sewer utilities there in the ground, two mains that further limit what we could do there. That is conveniently in an area of setback, so we typically would not be necessarily building there anyways, so it doesn't constrain potential for whatever we see for this site terribly, but it is another constraint. So essentially what we're left over with is about a half an acre triangle that certainly has usability for us and provides some flexibility in figuring out exactly how Sam would like to configure the needs that he has if that's all we're left with, but it does constrain us as far as more intensive municipal uses.
As Adam mentioned, we had, the three of us had already started looking at this, I think before it was even brought up at the Selectmen meeting. I don't remember the exact day that it was first proposed, but we had already started chipping away at this idea. I had contacted Beltronics. I had had some communications with them. They happened to be in town one day for something unrelated, and I asked them to come down and do kind of a cursory site visit of it. So they had come down and done that and taken a look at some things. And I think we've talked about before, just the elevation of this site for our communications needs was going to be maybe a little bit challenging. So we had started those conversations with Beltronics, but then once we learned that the conversations with Eversource were not as enthusiastic as they at first seemed to be, we kind of stopped with the other exploration for a police station site there until we got some of these answers. So that's kind of where that stands.
Okay. All right.
And then, okay. So the next step for us then is kind of going to an RFP to figure out what we're going to do to move forward. So I think that's probably where we're at in this process. I think that hearing the final verdict from Eversource is going to kind of help us in that, but I don't think it really restricts us from moving forward with the RFP process. I think if we're going to try to get something on a warrant for town meeting, it's a pretty short period to get that done, and it's constrained, but Adam and I will try to work our best to get that done. I think it's important to note that we don't want to end up in the same place we are, or, cut ourselves short as far as space and use of the property. So if it wasn't to happen for the 2026 town meeting, I would rather wait another year, unfortunately, to make sure that we have all the data that we can to actually best use this land and property for public works or other municipal needs for the town. We've talked a lot about where we can put things on this site, how the site can be adjusted. Public Works has kind of existed there for quite a while now and has kind of been an addition on top of an addition, and no real site planning and site analysis to say that, if we move the sand shed to a different location, we could do a building that maybe could attach to the lower shop. So everything's, from our perspective, is on the table to be looked at. We want to consider moving the sand shed or removing the recycle building to better accommodate the new building, or however we need to adjust the complex. So we just want to make sure that we're covering those and not just throwing a building up just to get back to the square footage we're in. We'd rather kind of muddle along for a little bit to, have a better answer and solution moving forward. We also will hopefully in a couple weeks come back to you with some more information on where we are at with our RFP, so that we can say who's going to be located here, what's going to be located here, and can we address any of the other town needs at that same time. We understand that this is a big project, and if we could simplify some storage for general use of all municipal uses or other departments, that would be beneficial. So we just want to make sure we're covering all the bases and not just rushing through this just to get something at town meeting. But we're going to do our best to pull the strings we can. So.
And then the only thing I would add to that is that, Sam and I have had a lot of conversation about if the police are not able to be located in sort of the upper portion of the parcel, to the extent that we can most efficiently use the lower portion to accommodate the vast majority of what he needs for his day-to-day operations, to more or less leave the upper portion untouched for the foreseeable future, allows for potential growth down the road. Or, if there's another piece of equipment in 50 years that needs a different shed, we don't want to be in a position where we have to look for land every time we need a small modification to a facility. And while that may be, far enough down the line that none of us will be in this room when those conversations happen, we want to make sure that we are making the lives of whoever is in this room at that time a little bit easier. So, taking the time to even though the design may be more complex in the planning process, to figure out how pieces could fit together to be most efficient, it's worth taking the time to make sure that what we come up with is not just simply throwing back what we had that's going to, cut ourselves short.
Okay. Go ahead.
Chief, if I may, first of all, in terms of conversations with the folks at Beltronics, were there any discussions about possibly utilizing the current tower that we have and hardwiring it over to a different site?
Yeah, we talked about that. The police department is actually part of the repeater system that we have here. So there does need to be some equipment at the police station. And so the recommendation, and there was also a question about, could there be the equipment on the roof of a building, or does it have to be a tower? And I did get some answers on that, is that basically I don't want to get it right. To get enough height for the microwave dishes to see over any obstructions to the mountains, they operate in a line of sight fashion, so that's why we need to have the height, and that's why we would need a tower. I mean, the tower that they were looking at and estimating would have to be about 180 to 200 feet tall, because there's about 165-foot difference in elevation from our current location to where DPW is. So there's going to be a lot. So to leave the tower here and to put it all down there, we talked about also Frothingham, like putting the tower down over on Frothingham. But the further away you get your tower from your main set of operations, the more difficult, the more points of failure you're going to have in there.
But in other words, Chief, what I'm getting at is in other words, was the conversation that you had with them about leaving this tower and the equipment in place? and
No,
putting
it was to put everything down in the same place.
Right.
Because it all needs to be connected to the dispatch center.
Right, and so what I'm asking is, in other words, whether or not it wouldn't be possible to hardwire this system down to a dispatch location if it were down there.
I think you're going to get far more points of failure the further away that you have from your radio tower to your communication center. You're going to have more points of failure throughout that.
No, that I would agree, and I'd understand, but in other words, it could be done conceivably.
Conceivably, you could make it work, but it's not ideal. Again, we would need 180 to 200 feet of tower to put a tower down there. A smaller tower would also work, but just not as good. But that's a point that I would not be willing to sacrifice, is communications abilities to put us down there. And again, depending on what Eversource says about the easement, if we're not able to build within that 100-foot right-of-way easement, then I'm not sure how, but again, that's maybe where an RFP would have to come into play. But I just don't know how, I don't know how it would work, but I'm not an engineer, so.
And Adam, I was curious in terms of when we look at the properties that surround our current property down at the Department of Public Works, to your knowledge, are any of them potentially available for acquisition by the town?
So we own the property already on sort of a third of the side, the Lion Brook parcel, and that.
And I'm sorry, just to be clear, so if we were looking at the site of the Department of Public Works, you're talking about to the left?
Yes, yep. So if up on this screen, you can kind of see where my cursor is. It comes down to Pleasant Street, and then it starts to wrap around on the back. And then there is a vacant parcel to the rear that I'm not sure what interest the owners have in selling it. It is vacant. There's a lot of wetlands on it, and I believe the Lion Brook Trail touches a portion of that parcel. I'm not sure what the building viability is there because of the wetlands, but it's something that we could explore. To the due north and northeast, Eversource owns that entire strip. It's a very narrow strip, but between there and the McCulloughs, the last house on the way down before Pleasant, the McCulloughs own a fair amount of land, but they are not contiguous because of the little strip that Eversource owns.
Tell me, when we look at that lot that's more or less directly behind the Department of Public Works, that you said has significant wetlands, do you have any idea where the brook is running through that parcel?
Let me see if I can, this is Sam's computer, so I'm not as familiar with his settings, but let's see if I can just pull up the assessing stuff for you. Apparently the internet's a little slow.
While we're waiting for that, do we have any idea how long it's going to take Eversource to get back to us with answers?
So The community liaison reached out to Sam yesterday and checked in and said, do you still not have an answer on this? And Sam said, no, we do not. So our understanding is that Joe is working on tracking an answer down for us. So I'd like to say by your next meeting we'll have an answer, but truthfully I thought we would have had it a couple weeks ago. So.
And so it sounds like moving that substation is off the table, though, correct?
Yep.
Sam, how long would you anticipate the RFP process taking?
I think it's probably a few-week process, just trying to figure out what our actual needs are, and then coming back to you once we kind of have the skeleton of it and saying, how do you want to fill in the meat and potatoes of it? You know, like how detailed do we want to get, and to what extent do we want to include other departments' needs, maybe from a storage standpoint or anything, just to try to make this work a little bit better. We've discussed, you know, with changes to the town offices coming eventually, like, do we need to think about additional office spaces there to maybe house some of the employees of the town office there, if we were going to do a new site with a office space, things like that. And so hopefully when we kind of get down this road, we'll be able to answer some of that better with you. So, but I think it'll definitely be a few weeks. Obviously, I think all of our plates are a little full right now. We're starting to think about our budgets and still just finalizing our facilities report, and then still just kind of dealing with the wave of public works in general, just getting our feet under us, and we're kind of at our peak time, so, but we'll do our best.
Right?
I think
it's important to move forward with it, though.
one thing that we will be up against too is the availability of
Right.
designers in a time of year when they're doing a lot of municipal work to get ready for town meetings. So, you know, I think we have to be realistic in finding somebody who's willing to take us on a quicker timetable
Yeah.
if we are still shooting for this town meeting season.
And what's the status of the large highway garage? Are we kind of waiting to take that down with? to
Oh,
make
the
it
building
part
with
of
the, so I think it's kind of interesting. At the end of last budget season, we thought we might have money in the budget to take down. That ended up not being the case. I would not be able to say now if I could handle that within the budget. Just starting off, I don't want to immediately take on a $20,000 project, just, you know, all in with the asbestos. Like I said, the asbestos came in a lot less, in the $4,000 to $6,000 range, but still we were thinking 10 to 12 to get it torn down. So I'm not sure I have that flexibility yet. I wouldn't till the end of the budget cycle. So depending on how we move along with this, either by the end of the budget season of next year, if we're not at that point construction-wise, we might have it within our budget to take it down, or we just loop it into the project scope as a whole. So
Yep.
I think those are both perfectly fine options either way, but we'll see what we can get done sooner rather than later, so.
Okay.
And when we talk about an RFP specifically, Sam, what are you talking about? What would be the proposal?
I think it's kind of, it's a little bit, I don't want to say hard to say, but it's a review of the entire site and also adding the space that we lost, plus the addition of what we kind of didn't have, and planning for a little bit of growth within Public Works. Public Works is unique in that it's not like when we hire more people, we definitely need more space. It's more as the town grows, Public Works just has to naturally grow. And so obviously we've been in the same space for quite a while, and that building being relatively old, we had a lot of equipment that was outside, and the equipment didn't fit within the building that we had safely, or efficiently maybe is a better way to say it. So I think it would be the addition of a new building, or hopefully an addition on the lower building. That's seeming more and more difficult based on the right-of-ways and the stream buffers to add an addition on that lower facility, which is, I would still like to see an engineer and architect take a stab at it, because I think that would be the most efficient way and most cost-effective way. Efficient from my employee standpoint, not having to own two sets of everything because we have two facilities would be really nice. But then also having them review the property in general to see if they can make something work better that we haven't seen yet. Obviously, it's difficult for us to, you know, say exactly what we need for square footage. So I think if we kind of give them, this is what we had, this is what we'd like to see from square footage for base space, this is what we need, we think, for office space. We've looked at some other RFPs, and some towns leave it pretty open and say, this is how many employees we have, this is the equipment we have, this is what we want to house, and then they allow the architect or engineer to kind of design around that, instead of saying, we want 16,000 square feet of bay space. So I think we're going to probably decide that in the next few weeks and do some more research via other towns' RFPs and have those kind of more definitive answers for when we come back to you to say, this is where we're at, this is what we're thinking. So hopefully that answers it. But we just don't want to take anything off the table. Like our fuel depot is kind of right in the middle of the site. And so part of the project might be, let's move the fuel depot. It's not what we initially had on the plans to do in the next 5 to 10 years of Public Works, but we also didn't think our building was going to have to come down. So let's address those things now. And does that mean fueling for gasoline too? So we could do police, our vehicles, and fire all at the same time at the same site. We already do diesel for the fire department. So I just kind of trying to take all those things into consideration and get those covered under the RFP so we're not selling ourselves short, I think is important. So it's just some of the details that maybe initially we thought this will be easy, haven't felt as easy when you get into the details, so.
And in addition to that, Sam and I are trying to familiarize ourselves with some newer public works facilities so that we have a better idea of, what is the expectation, what are we not thinking about that, maybe they have that we can learn from. Last Friday, we were able to get down to Hollis very quickly they just completed a year and a half ago, a new office building, one new shop, and the total renovation of their original shop. They were not open on Friday. Their department was closed, but they said, take a look around, look at everything. And it was when we could fit it in our schedules. So that's very helpful. For example, their office building is not attached at all to their shops. So to see that model, that's working for them, that I think gives us a little bit more confidence in the flexibility to, potentially take those two things apart if we can utilize the land in a different manner that doesn't necessarily allow everything to be, directly connected, but at least in the same vicinity and campus. Guilford is in the process of building a new DPW, obviously a different town, different operation, but we're going to try to get over there in the next couple of weeks to take a look at theirs too, just to see if we can help to hone the RFP so that we can put some more specific parameters on exactly what it is we think we need so that hopefully we get a better response from the RFP. Because I think oftentimes the more open-ended you do leave it, that we want to allow them their design creativity and their flexibility. I think sometimes for consultants who have somewhat limited schedules, that can be alarming to them to be like, oh, they really don't know what they want yet. This is going to be, a little bit more time than the timeline that they have that we can allow for. So I think to the extent that we can really dial down and be pretty specific about what we want, that will help our response.
Janet, have you got any? Nope.
Can I ask a question of the two of you maybe? Where are we in terms of whether or not, looking at whether or not we want to stay in the dispatch business?
Good question. Had a conversation, we'll put that on the next agenda. Ashley's reaching out to entities that can do a dispatch study. So she's been reaching out to get proposals on us doing the dispatch study.
We'll still need communications of some kind, whether or not we have a dispatch center or not. We still need
Yeah,
radio communications.
right.
Right. Yeah, I'm still eager to look into, though, the possibilities of utilizing our existing facilities and hardwiring it, knowing full well that you're absolutely correct, Chief, that makes it more vulnerable. But lots of things make our systems vulnerable, and the question is, can we mitigate those risks?
Okay. Thank you, guys, for the update. Appreciate it. Does anybody in the audience have any questions on this particular topic?
For this winter, what are we going to do with the equipment? Can we use that existing building just for storage?
Yeah, so non-snow removal equipment will stay outside most likely this winter. So like our grader, loader, pieces of equipment like that, so we can fit all of our plow trucks, our large six-wheelers and our smaller one-tons. So things that people have to get into every day to plow snow will be undercover, and then some of the larger equipment will park outside and have to just uncover it when we go to use it, so.
So,
Oh, yeah, oh, you were asking about the upper shop. Yeah, nothing can be stored in the upper shop from a, if it was to get a large snow load or anything like that, it could have catastrophic failure, and Primex has kind of said that once the building's abandoned, we shouldn't be using it for anything whatsoever. I know Jay had talked about trying to, or the question had been asked, could we train in it? And, ultimately, the answer is no.
and are there any covers we can put over some of the equipment that's outside, such as that sand dome, I don't know what you call it, but where we could park 5
Yeah, so
of
right
them?
now, the sand shed's being utilized to keep things out of direct sunlight too. We use, the different areas of the building in general to try to do that. As far as wintertime goes, we've looked at purchasing some larger, like, rubber tarps, so that things aren't just getting iced up. So if we do need to use it in an emergency, it won't be like a fight to get them out or a struggle. So we are looking at that, but I think just trying to keep the critical stuff that's getting used on a daily basis inside, and then we'll do
Right.
the best we can for the other equipment, so.
Okay, and I had 2 more questions. Bibi, you had mentioned the dispatch, or Richard maybe, we're working on the dispatch review project. Is that what you were referring to?
Correct.
Okay. And then you mentioned, Chief, failure of connecting the towers. What did you mean by failure? What fails?
I think just as you get further away from the tower, there are more points of failure. It's a longer cable that has to run from the tower to the dispatch center, and kind of like a garden hose, the longer it is, it might not come out as fast at the other end. So that's how it was explained to me, and that's how I understand it as well, is that there could be some more points of failure. If you're going underground with wires, or if they're overground, I don't know, but I don't know how they would do it. I assume it would all be underground, but I don't know that for certain. Those were at the beginning of our conversations, John, that we were having with Beltronics, but we kind of stopped those when we learned that the enthusiasm from Eversource wasn't quite as strong as we originally thought.
Right. Do we have any current points of failure in the system we have now?
I'm sure there are some points of failure that wherever anything plugs into something, I'm sure there's points of failure with any system.
So you have it in the existing location?
I don't know of
as
any
well
off the top of my head where there are points of failure, but I'm sure that some exist, as with any type of communications equipment or technology, just like you would have in your own home.
Rich, I was able to change the browser and get the stream up there. It's harder to see on the big screen, but it's sort of in the middle of the blue section. I have not walked on Karen and Pete's Hoagland's property to know really what it is like up here. If that's something you want us to explore, I'm happy to. I should be seeing Pete this week for a building permit thing. I can ask him if he's okay with us just poking around in the woods to see what it's like.
What is it exactly that you're thinking of for that property in the back? Something more that we could expand on?
Yeah, in other words, whether or not there's any possibility of us acquiring that land and whether or not it would be potentially usable.
I can certainly ask him if it's anything he's entertaining.
Okay.
Tom Carvey, resident. I'm one of the 3 trustees of the trust. I don't know if you know this, but we run a trust fund called the Town Building Maintenance Fund, which has $169,000 in there. So I would think that your 20 grand could come out of there pretty easily. The money's liquid and we can finance it immediately.
Okay. 20 grand for the RFP?
I think I
Oh,
believe he's
20
talking
grand
about
for the
tearing,
building- for
to
the
tear
bu-
down
for
the
the-
building.
Building, for the demolition, got it.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
got it, okay. All right, next, Richard, you're going to talk to us about the library.
How do you still share on yours?
Thank you all. I'm Richard Tutwiler. I'm the director of the Tracy Memorial Library. Now, before we begin, I just want to make sure, were you all able to get the memo and associated attachments? Perfect. All right. So I will be speaking about the library exterior repair project. For a little bit of historical context, in June of last year, the Library Board of Trustees and other staff members conducted an extensive evaluation of the building through Frank Anzalone Architecture. And as part of that report, we determined a number of things that would need immediate repair and then some other things that maybe could do a little bit later, specifically some painting. Earlier this calendar year, last fiscal year, you saw the first stage of that repair where we repaired a significant portion of the library roof. I'm sure you saw the new copper going on and additional slate roof being repaired. We now are at the time where we are considering the next stage of that repair and hopefully trying to get it done this summer before winter comes. Unfortunately, the amount of money was a little bit more than we had initially budgeted a year and a half ago. So through an estimate with Milestone Construction, we have a total of $128,852.85. So that's a significant bit more than the $60,000 that has already been approved for exterior repairs as of the annual town meeting. That being said, we were able to also get a grant through the Association with Small and Rural Libraries, through the generosity of the Manton Foundation, in the number of $15,000 to kind of offset that additional cost. So the good news is that we do have some extra money that we could spend on this project. Furthermore, the trustees of the trust have confirmed to us that currently the library building maintenance trust account has a fully accrued balance of $119,000, $238.59 as of June 30th, so coming into this current fiscal year. So the good news is we already have the pot of money existing. We don't have to ask for any additional, transfer into that line to pay for these increased costs, but we would need your all's approval to do so. Just a reminder for this stage of the project, it's a bit of a, it's a bit of a challenge because we have multiple elevation sites that we need to get access to. Specifically, there's a level of significant rot under the trim and window fixtures on the, floor, north, south, east, and west areas of the library exterior. That includes also towards the bottom of the library where, it meets the ground, where there's some significant challenges, specifically where we have some cast cement staircases through emergency exits where the rot has, come in underneath. So that's partially why this project is a little bit more expensive than we had originally anticipated. But again, we do have the money for it, which is the best news. It's just a matter of accessing that. That being said, are there any questions that you all may have? I'm happy to speak to them.
Richard, first of all, the number that you show of 128,852, those numbers that you give there, the three numbers above it, total 119,648. So it's an approximately, roughly $8,000 differential there. Do you have any idea what the difference is there?
I think I took into account the $15,000 from the library grant. So again, we'll be offsetting some of that additional costs. So my understanding is what we would be asking for is an additional not to exceed number of $53,852.85. And that number could certainly be lowered when we consider that $18,407.55 are contingency funds. That's if, something unfortunate or unforeseen occurs that we need to spend additional monies on. As a part of the roof part of the first stage of this project, we had budgeted $60,000 and came in at $48,000 when we were finally done. So we were able to save a little bit of money there on what we had budgeted.
And can I ask, can you just tell us a little bit more specifically exactly what it is you're looking to do with this latest round?
Sure. So I don't know if you have the evaluation and repair recommendations report in front of you, but it is extensive. So in this report, we have a 27-page report of the different points of failure for the library building. Specifically, a lot of things addressing rot in the window trim and the exterior, having to replace all of that. In addition, there's a couple areas where we have moisture intrusion into the library. It's causing extra humidity within the building. It's starting to warp some of our interior walls as well, so that's why it's a particular, something we definitely want to get done sooner rather than later to kind of stem the bleeding, if you will. But we have multiple roof returns that are failing. We have a rain diverter over the historic main entrance of the building that has failed and needs replacement. So again, right now, some of that water is creeping down because the diverter has failed and then causing rot in the underlying, exterior trim. So in addition to that, much of the currently existing paint of those fixtures, it is lead paint, so the remediation process will be a little bit more complex just because we need to make sure that it gets cleaned up tidily. And we can't just simply paint over areas where maybe it's not as bad. In negotiations with Milestone, some of their original costs were in excess of $200,000, which we did not think was realistic. But that also encumbered, more painting. If you look at the estimate provided, you'll notice that the largest expenditures are for, of course, the actual site supervision. Painting of $30,000 is the single largest cost as part of this project. And then the use of a, I forgot the name of it.
Man lift.
The man lift, thank you. Which again, part of the challenges with this project is there's so many different elevation sites that need fixing that we do need to have that man lift. It is expected to be at least a month, likely 2 months of a project, just because it's a lot of labor-intensive work.
And Richard, I know you're new with the library, but have you had a chance, by any chance, to look at the historical numbers that we've spent on repair of the building over the last 15, 20 years?
I can't speak to all of that. Offhandedly, I have known that there are some individuals in the community who are, worried about the continued cost of maintenance of that building. Speaking to that door I mentioned earlier, it's a historic door and it's warped, which is why we have to install weather stripping on it if we want to preserve the historic character of that building. But it's also an iconic building in New London. It's, historic and the most valuable currently building that the town owns. So unfortunately, I believe some of my predecessors have kind of kicked the can down the road on some of the larger projects and kind of gone with a piecemeal approach. Whereas right here, once we complete this project, I can't promise that we won't have others because it is an old building. But this is the largest piece that we have left and would complete the report that Frank Ancelone, provided us.
So there's nothing else looming, though, that...
Not to my knowledge. We certainly, have our own, 5-10-year plan for building maintenance improvements. I believe not this current fiscal year, but next fiscal year, we want to go ahead and repave the parking lot, redo the cement curbs as well, just because over time they've been hit, they've been degraded, there's cracking. So it's just one of those regular maintenance things that we need to do. One thing I'm particularly mindful of is Americans with Disability Act audit of the building. I feel that we're in pretty good shape, but I also went through a $1.2 million renovation project at my previous library that I managed, which, that stuff can balloon on you very quickly. Now, this is a historic building, that one was not, and that was part of a major update which necessitated us meeting the requirements of the ADA, whereas these are not. So it's different pots of money. That being said, we want to do our best to make sure that accessibility, especially for an aging population, is as easy as possible. So that's something I'm mindful of.
Janet, any questions? So I'm just confirming that the current balance is $119,238.59, $60,000 approved in March 2025. You've got another $15,000 towards coming from a grant. You need us to approve $53,852.85,
Up to, yes.
up to. Okay, so may I have a motion to approve up to $53,852.85 to be dispersed from the library building maintenance fund? All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Thank you all.
all right. Thank you, Richard. Okay, next, Lynn, fiscal 2025 encumbered funds.
Yes, ma'am. So every year, there are items ordered, on order, that have not come in by the end of the fiscal year, and we don't want to have those costs end up in the new fiscal year, so we encumber the funds on the items that we're still waiting on. This is the list broken out by departments. The total is $23,645 that we would need to encumber. And just so that, I just ran the numbers from each year, so in 24 it was 24,000, in 23 it was 32,000, and in 22 it was 77,000, and that was the end of COVID when we were not, supply chains were terrible. So I think this number seems to be where we land most of the time.
These were all budgeted items, right?
They were part of the operating budget. They still, everybody still stays within their
Yep.
correct numbers. They don't overspend.
Yep.
It's just things in good faith that were ordered
And-
that we just
and
did
not
not
before
get
that.
in time to bill out through the end of the year.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the amount of $23,645 as further fiscal year 2025 encumbrances? All in favor? Aye, okay. Thank you. All right.
Thanks.
Putnam has some programming updates.
Right, good evening. My name is Putnam Kidder. I'm the rec director. I'm going to talk to you about a few different things, starting with Strawberry Fest, talking about Strawberry Fest overview, talking about summer so far, a update on the swing set project, and then wrapping up with some highlights of some upcoming programs between now and December. So Strawberry Fest, which happened on the 21st of June on the green, the sun was out. We welcomed over 300 community members of all ages to the event. We had all of our recreation commissioners volunteering over the 2 days, and we had 22 community volunteers helping out with the event on the day, on Saturday. We had vendors, community tables, games, food, entertainment, and delicious strawberries and strawberry shortcake for sale. We raised over $3,000, which was our highest total yet, which was great. The sun certainly helped, but I think the funds that we raised was great, but also I think more importantly was the feeling and the kind of moments throughout the day of community togetherness, people of all ages there, families, the sun, the green, the center of town, strawberries, people volunteering, interacting with all the people who were coming for strawberries and strawberry shortcakes, lots of happy kids, things like that. So those are the moments we really want to try to get more and more of through the rec department to provide for individuals and our community as a whole. So it was a really great event, and thanks to everyone who played a role in it. So the summer so far at both beaches, we have 15 lifeguards and 7 beach attendants. We started preseason training in late May and early June. We've continued with so far 1 in-service training with our guard trainer, Len Angeli. This one was July 8th, and we were lucky enough to have the participation of the police department, the fire department, and emergency services at Buckland Beach, and a combination of those groups talking about some of the tools and techniques they use in their jobs, and then also interacting with our staff and saying how they might be involved with them if there was an emergency. And also our group was able to do a search and rescue and refresh their CPR skills. So that's a really good one in many ways, because our, teenage, early, adulthood staff members get to engage with the professionals who, serve our town and do this thing professionally. So it's really good for them to see those folks, and also to feel like they're really part of a larger team of support and keeping the community safe. So that's great. We have 2 more in-service trainings scheduled for the 5th and 12th of August, both at Elkins. Basically, we opened for Memorial Day weekend, and the lifeguards started on June 7th, and then did weekends until they started 7 days a week on June 18th. So we've had 40 staff days so far. I've gotten some good feedback from several residents. These are quotes: responsible, hardworking, and responsive about the work staff we have so far this year. So that's really great to hear. Swim lessons has been going, started a couple weeks ago. We've had 5 sessions so far with 46 participants at both beaches. We have 3 more to go. Ages 5 to 12 are there with our trained instructors, working to improve their swimming skills, learning water safety, and being able to enjoy our incredible beaches. When I go there, I remember when I was there, and it's wonderful to see those kids there, community members, and their kids being there, learning how to swim, having a good time, enjoying our amazing beaches. So that's really good to see. We've been offering kind of broken up lessons this year with just level 1, 2, which are beginning swimmers, and then trying to offer level 3, 4s for kids who are a little bit older, who maybe don't want to do the beginning swimming lessons with small kids who are just, blowing bubbles and things like that. So that's been pretty good so far. It is kind of hard to figure out sometimes with people and their schedules, but everyone who's been there has been really happy, and we're excited about doing that. The Tracy Memorial Library has had their book bike story time at Elkins Beach. I think they've done 2 Fridays so far at 11 o'clock, and they're going to do 2 more this year. And we do have, mark your calendars, coming up next Friday as part of Hospital Days events. We will be doing the free hot dogs and beach games at Elkins this year as part of the Hospital Days weekend, so people can come down for a free hot dog and some beach games in and out of the water at Elkins Beach next Friday from 11 to 2. Cyanobacteria continues to be on the radar. We continue to work with my staff, the health officer here in town, Little Lake Sunapee Protective Association, Pleasant Lake Protective Association, to get the word out consistently, to get it out effectively whenever there is an issue with cyanobacteria, whether it be on the lake as a whole or on our beach. So every time that happens, we get a little bit better about getting that information out, like I said, clearly and consistently, and also finding out when reports come in and where they come in from. So my staff continues to be, for me, the front line of defense of finding, looking for things and remaining as vigilant as possible. And they did catch 1 incident at Buckland so far this year, but also they've been really good in helping to try to give people the information we have and educate people on this, because it does seem like it is something that is going to be more on our radar. And when it's around, we go with the DES recommendation to not swim in or near visible blooms, and then really trying to give everyone, all users of the beach, all the information we have, because we have some people who maybe have a different level of risk that they find appropriate, and then there are other people, maybe with smaller children, who uses the beaches that have, or other pre-existing conditions, that they might have a different perspective on cyanobacteria. So we try to give everyone the information we have. But it is something we continue to learn more and more about each time it happens. And the work with the Lake Sunapee Protective Association, PLPA, Little Lake Sunapee Protective Association, has been really helpful to work with those groups to be able to educate people about it and get the word out there.
Putnam, can I ask you a quick question on that?
Yes.
Before I forget? 'Cause this, Mike, this is what I was talking about this morning, with the help perhaps of an LSPA intern to help us create, remember we talked about that legend, kind of a sign, levels of warnings? Because there's been some confusion with the signage that Putnam's been putting up down at the beaches. Some people have been getting upset, thinking the beach is closed, and we're not really closing, we're just posting, that there are blooms and people should use the beach at their own risk. So the Rec Commission talked about that at their last meeting, about the possibility of reaching out to LSPA to have an intern help with improving the signage that we're putting up at the beaches. So I just wanted to say that before I forgot it again. So, okay. All right.
Great. So moving on to the most recent update on the swing sets at Elkins. On Tuesday, July 15th, myself and 2 members of the Rec Commission had a very productive visit with Chris Martin from Utiliplay. We were able to visit Elkins and Buckland Beach play areas. I've spoken with a lot of playground providers and planners and companies involved with this, and he has by far been the most knowledgeable, experienced, open, honest, and responsive person we've dealt with so far. So I feel really good about moving forward with this group. We have a follow-up meeting with him this Monday. So we're working with Chris to determine the best option for our location at Elkins, and making sure it meets current safety recommendations for safety use zone areas, which our current setup does not. And that's the area of that you need free of any trees or things like that from the swing, the top of the swing out in front of it. And right now, the current setup we don't have doesn't meet those safety recommendations, safety requirements. So the first phase of the project, which the Selectmen have allocated funds for, will involve replacing the swings with a new swing structure, putting in safety surface material, and ADA upgrades. The Rec Commission will have additional details in regards to plans and costs and timing to share at upcoming Selectmen meetings. Hopefully this Monday meeting with him will provide some more specifics on that. The second phase of the project involves looking at other pieces at Elkins that will need replacement. Chris was able to look at those and estimate, he knows there's the bigger arch there. His professional estimation was saying that was, 2 years maybe for that one before it's going to need to be looked at. And the other one, which is kind of a monkey bars area, needs to be looked at as well. And making a long-range plan and funding options for new structures there, along with necessary ADA upgrades. The overall plan will also include the Buckland play areas as well for maintenance in the short term, and making a plan for long-range updates to the equipment up there and ADA accessibility. Related to this project, the Rec Department is undertaking a multi-step process to evaluate, make a transition plan for, and then take action on the necessary ADA upgrades to our facilities and policies for both the short term and future moving forward. So we're excited about getting some positive momentum on this project, and hope to be back to have more specifics with you very soon. Want to just give you a little bit of a summary of some of the plans we have moving forward from now until December. Thinking about new programs, thinking about having programs that appeal to and involve a broad range of ages, from kids all the way to seniors and everything in between. For everyone here and all of the selectmen, I'm open to any and all suggestions as people have ideas or things they might think we might be able to offer in the future. I'm more than willing to have a phone call or meet with you in person, or shoot me an email with ideas as to things you might think might work for our community to offer for trips, events, programs moving forward. So there's a pretty long list of some of the things we're doing. I'll give you a highlight of a few of them. We're trying to think about doing lawn games out on the where the rink is, on the, I guess the small green is that one called? or the small common, to be able to have those there for people who are going by in the summer, all ages of people to be able to use those. Just engage people and be able to stop and take a moment to relax and play games with their families and or friends, or if they're on their lunch break or something like that. So that was a new idea to try to do that, take use of one of our public spaces and give back to the community that way. Like I said, Beach Day and Free Hot Dog Day coming up this next Friday, the 1st of August at Elkins from 11 to 2. We've been doing this Friday also is the play dates on the green, which are in conjunction with the band concerts. So we did the first one. This is kind of the middle of their concert series. And we'll do one at the end where I'll be there with our kind of some lawn games for people who have some snacks and opportunity to people who are already at the concert, be able to come over, talk with me a little bit, play some games, have some snacks, and ask me questions, give me feedback about things they might have interest in about the rec department. So the first one went pretty well. We had some happy customers and had some folks coming by, and hopefully, if the weather agrees, we hope to have some more folks there. But just the opportunity to get myself out there a little bit more, and then add to an already great event. As we all know, those band concerts are wonderful there. So looking forward to doing that. And that was another new program which we were excited to try to do. We're looking at doing 3 programs the week before Kearsarge starts in later August, where we would use the rec van, have kids sign up to have a day at the beach involving some time at the beach, some games on the green, and then wrap up with ice cream from Pizza Chef on the green. So be able to have kids, hopefully we can get a lot of kids from our swim lessons to be able to do that and be able to just enjoy the local beach. Their parents, it'd be kind of one day where their parents could have them with us, kind of a daycare thing, but also an opportunity to engage with other kids and enjoy the beaches here. Wildlife encounters we have scheduled for Wednesday the 20th. They are a group that has, they've done them at Knights Hill Nature Park, and they have various different presentations, but it's an interactive educational show about different kind of animals. We were going to have the tiny creatures, which is I think 6 to 8 different animals that their staff will present and talk to people about, and you can kind of look and see and hold some of them. So we thought about doing that on the green or in here as a weather backup, and that would be a very well-attended event when they've had it at Knights Hill Nature Park in the summers. They weren't doing it this year, so I reached out to this group to try to do something right in the center of the town, which I thought would be engaging and educational as well. Really excited about a Flying into Fall event. It will be co-sponsored by Echo Communications. That's going to be the end of that week, the 22nd, and we're going to do a paper airplane contest for kids. The shopper, Echo Communications, will be printing a paper airplane that you can just pull out of the shopper, and then we'll have a contest out on the green for accuracy and distance. And then we're going to have some community drummers come and do a performance at the bandstand to wrap it up with food and hopefully something kind of fun and different and interesting to try to kind of wrap up the summer with. We had some great, when we did Zumba here, Try Zumba events here in May, we had a lot of excitement about that, and we want to follow up on that event with a Zumbathon, which is an event in here where you have several different teachers doing various types of Zumba, and for kids Zumba or different types or styles of it. People are really excited about doing that and using this space. They really enjoyed this space to use that for. And we're hoping that that might be able to be something that we could start as a fundraiser, maybe start to raise some funds for the Elkins Playground Fund. And then just a couple other ones. I'm really excited to try to have, I'm calling it a volunteers program. In the past, we have worked with Kearsarge High School students. They have a requirement to have 20 hours of volunteer service that they need to do over the course of their 4 years. We've been lucky enough to have some of them reach out to us to help out with Easter or help out with Strawberry Fest or help out with Halloween. This is a program that I'm excited to try to set up with Kearsarge Regional High School Guidance, Extended Learning, and Athletic Department staff and students to be able to say, hey, come and do all your volunteer hours with the rec department. We can get you your hours and try to work with them, you know, with my supervision to be able to plan events and then put on events, and then be able to volunteer their time and hopefully their talents to be able to give back to the community. They would be able to get to volunteer and interact with, if we did a program for younger kids or for adults, and hopefully be able to have them give us some feedback as to things that they think would be engaging for kids. So I see that as a really good opportunity to get them involved in the community, giving back, and then also they're always saying, oh, we can't get it done, we can't find places or things like that, and we would be able to say, guidance department, send them here, we can get all your hours done, and hopefully they can do it in a way that's really interesting and engaging. So I'm excited about trying to get that off the ground. And the other thing, like I said, there's several things where I'm kind of skipping over here, but trying to have a event for New Year's Eve called New Year's New London. New Year's Eve is on Wednesday, December 31st this year, and this would be a collaboration event between the Center for the Arts, the Rec Department, Tracy Memorial Library, and the Lake Sunapee Chamber of Commerce, kind of running through the course of the early afternoon through the evening. And the Rec Department is excited to be part of that new idea. I think people have been talking about for a while to say, oh, it'd be great to have things happening in New Year's Eve in New London. So we're going to give this a try. We're going to, for the Rec Department's portion of it, we'll be doing something here in Whipple. It's going to kind of overlap with the Festival of Trees event, which is another great holiday event. But to be able to do a little kids New Year's Eve celebration from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So the little kids get to kind of ring in the new year instead of 11:59 p.m. when they're obviously going to be asleep. They can come here and they can ring in the new year. Kind of fun, different thing that people do for kids, little kids and families. And then we would hopefully, weather depending, we would hope to be out on the skating rink doing a opportunity for maybe a hockey tournament, like a 3-on-3 hockey tournament, have a kids division, have an adults division. And if it's anything like this year, we would have really nice ice for that, but we would be doing that 11 to 2, the kids version, and then we would have the hockey tournament with fire pits, hot chocolate and s'mores going from 5 to 8 p.m. in conjunction with other events that are going to be put on by the Center for the Arts and the Lake Sunapee Chamber of Commerce. So kind of excited about that as another new, different thing. Any questions?
It all sounds great, but
Great.
the only question I had was the legend thing, the beach.
Yep.
Sounds great.
Okay. And I'll say again, anyone, I'm really open to any and all feedback, and if anyone wants to help out, or if you have ideas or enthusiasm or anything, I'm really excited to get all the help and ideas we can get. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we've got Sam and Adam. This is on the agenda to talk about the Buildings and Facilities Report update. So,
Like a bad penny, I'm back. So we received the latest draft from Frank Anzalone yesterday. We have not completed our full review of it yet. It's gotten longer. It's 83 pages now, I believe. So we're going to take a little time the next week to get through that and then write our comments, concerns, and opinions about it, and then get the document off to you, the selectmen, hopefully at the next selectmen's meeting. So that's kind of the update I have for tonight. So very close, and hold tight. So.
okay. Any questions on that from either of you? Okay. We have now made it to public comment. Is there any public comment from anybody on anything that's not on the agenda? Okay.
I have one thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry, this isn't on the agenda, but I just wanted to bring the board's attention that on July 12, 2025, the New London Police Benevolent Association participated in the 2025 Stuff a Cruiser event. And we do this in partnership with the Kearsarge Lake Sunapee Community Food Pantry and Hannaford, and it was a tremendous success. They stuffed 7 cruisers, which is, they had 482 bags/boxes of food and other requested items. They collected 5,666 pounds of items. And just for some context, when the event started in 2013, they collected about 2,000 pounds of items, so it increases every year. The food pantry received everything on their list in addition to other items that they were looking for. They collected $120 in Hannaford gift cards and $1,134 in monetary donations. So it was a really, really huge success, and it stocks the shelves at the food pantry for a good long while. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention that the Benevolent Association participated in that, and it was a great success. One of the unsung or sung heroes, I guess, of the event is Lieutenant David Keith. He has not missed a year since they started it, that the event has been held, and he's really integral to the success of this program. Everything from the planning of it to standing out there all day to shuttling the cruisers back and forth with the food. So Lieutenant Keith heads this program up, and I'm very proud of him for doing so. And it's a great event, stocking the shelves at the food pantry. They're very appreciative, and we appreciate their partnership as well as that of Hannaford. So thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Chief. I'm going to ask if you guys wouldn't mind if we moved Mike Morgan up a little bit, because he's been sitting here really patiently. And if you wouldn't mind, we have Mike Morgan here tonight to be appointed by the Board of Selectmen to be the town representative for the LSPA, which a couple of us didn't even know that we had a town representative on the LSPA. I knew because my father started it, the program to have a representative appointed from each town that's on the lake. And so our last representative was Tom Cottrell, and we thank him very much for serving the town for the last 8 years. And so now we've been asked by LSPA to appoint Mike Morgan as the new representative, which is really great. I've been working with Mike a lot over the last few years on the watershed stuff, on the septic ordinance. And Mike, I don't know if you want to just say a couple of words about LSPA's focus for the upcoming year, and then we can just take a quick vote, I guess, to appoint him.
So 2 things. It's the lake preservation, protection, but it's the watershed. So I think that's the thing that came through to me in the last 6 years that I've been involved with lakes protection, LSPA first, LSPA now. So that extends across people who don't own land on the lakes, and the town in particular. As we talked about earlier, stormwater management is going to be a big deal. Secondly is LSPA, thankfully, has the resources to provide to the towns, all 4 of them in our watershed, help, for example, with the septic stuff as we go forward. So I think bear that in mind, that we're a resource for the town, not a drain. And my intent as the connective tissue between the 2 organizations is to keep both sides apprised of what's going on, so that we can be proactive, because right now time is not on our side. That's all I want to say.
Thanks. Okay, could I have a motion to appoint Mike Morgan as the town representative for the Lake Sunapee Protective Association Board? All in favor? Aye. All right, thanks.
Can you bring muffins to ply us with?
Okay. Next on the agenda, some old business. So we've been notified of a few things that have happened in the last couple of weeks with some hot issues going on around town. The first one is we were copied, our health officer was copied on a letter from DES addressed to Jeff and Melissa Owen, owners of the New London Cleaners. We are going to put a link on the town website to DES where you can find this letter, but it's basically giving the Owens more instructions on the fact that there still are issues with both indoor air within the cleaners and with the ground contamination. They're looking for some more testing to be done. So I reached out to the Owens today briefly just to see what their response was to the letter, and when they told me that they are continuing to work with DES on all of their requests here, so it still continues. The next thing that we were notified of was a decision from the Housing Appeals Board regarding Twin Pines and its case with the New London Springfield Water System Precinct. Twin Pines also issued a statement. Again, all of this will be on the town's website. They obviously were disappointed that the Housing Appeals Board affirmed the New London Springfield Water System Precinct's denial of their application for domestic water. One positive is that the board did prioritize the Twin Pines project ahead of other projects, so once the precinct determines that they have enough capacity for Twin Pines, they're supposed to give a right of first refusal to Twin Pines as a hookup. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And what else stands out? I think that's it. And they also are recommending to the precinct that they impose a moratorium on new approvals and connections until such time as the above referenced increase in capacity is accomplished. So the saga continues. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this in the future. I don't know when does anybody know when the next water precinct meeting is? Is it the first Monday of the month usually they have those? Okay, so we probably want to try to attend that. Yeah, okay, Janet, we'll go to all of them. Report back and, okay. And finally, on old business, Chief Cobb has a grant for us to accept for the New Hampshire Office of Highway Safety. Do you want to tell us what it is first before we make this motion?
Yes, yeah, I had come to the board recently and just mentioned that I had applied for this grant, but we did receive it. And so the total amount, which includes highway safety money for things like extra patrols or like speed enforcement, DWI, distracted driving, child restraint violations, those kind of things. So that's $8,500 that we were awarded. And then there is an amendment to that grant for a piece of equipment for an in-car radar unit that we would be putting in the new cruiser. So the total of the grant is $9,782.50. There is some amount of match. It's a 25% match, like I'd mentioned to the board, which we would have to pay for the in-car radar unit. But let's say we didn't use the full $8,500 for the highway safety enforcement mobilizations. We only pay 25% of what we use. So if we don't use the full $8,500, we only pay what we use. Yes, yep, and so that match for the highway safety enforcement, that can be used for things like our cruiser, what we use for the detail rate for our cruiser fees, which is $15, administrative time spent on grant and those kind of things, the gas for the cruisers. So there's a variety of ways that you can meet that, that amount of match for these grants. But as far as the amendment goes for the in-car radar unit, yes, I believe that I can take that out of my operating budget. It's $427.50. The unit itself is $1,710, so it's a good deal.
Okay. So can I get a motion to accept the terms of the highway safety grant as presented in the amount of $8,500 and the amended grant terms as presented in the grant agreement amendment notice for an adjusted total grant limitation of $9,782.50? All in favor? Aye. And I also am stating for the record that B.B. Hammond Casey, Chair of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to sign all documents related to the grant. Okay,
Thank you.
all right. I guess we're gonna skip the town administrator report unless you have something.
Well, Ashley had asked me just to mention that the two items in there, the two top items, that they will be in municipal matters, so people will be able to see what she had wanted to present. And then I can let you know that the auditors are here next week, and they'll be here on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and possibly Monday, so.
Okay, and I see here that you've got a note that then the Sid Crook won't be available.
That is correct, and it won't be available even in the evenings because they leave all of the documentation in there, and I just don't want to be hauling it back and forth. So yes, Sid Crook is unavailable from Wednesday morning, well, Tuesday night
Okay,
through Monday.
okay. Committee meetings and reports.
The New London Springfield Water System Precinct met on July 7th, 2025. They noted that water usage was down because of the wet spring, and so people weren't watering their lawns. They had no report at that time on Colby Point, but they should receive it by the next meeting. At that time, they had not heard from the Housing Appeals Board regarding the Twin Pines development, which we just heard about. Okay, excuse me. On the 14th of July, the Board of Fire Wards met. Chief Lyon noticed that they had 497 calls as the middle of July. We welcomed new board member Kate Turcott, and it was reported that Andrew Sarnavis has resigned. New firefighter Brandon Adams has started, and it was noted there will be a difference in the budget because he will have, he has a family, so the benefits will be higher because he will have family medical. Andrew was single, but once again, the department is down a member. So the search is commencing to fill that spot. Jay prepared a report on future staffing and strategic review. The fire wards are reviewing it now. With regard to last night, we had a planning board meeting, and the main item was the fact that the Bar Harbor Bank on Main Street, which is directly across from the parking lot, is going to be torn down, and they're going to replace it with a smaller building. And we looked at a conceptual review of that. And also, Adam noted that there have been a number of changes to the law regarding ADUs and parking, and that we're probably going to have to update our zoning ordinance significantly, maybe. And that's it.
I'd actually like to ask you about that, if that's okay,
Yep, happy to.
if you guys don't mind.
Do you just want me to
Yeah.
give a more broad?
Yeah,
So there are a lot of bills, and the guidance is coming out sort of in real time from NHMA. Yesterday, a lot of the different guidance documents were released. The one I think that's going to require the most work is the ADU bill. It's a very unique situation where the effective date was 15 days prior to when the governor actually signed it. Bills like that typically have almost a full year before they become effective to give us time to actually amend the zoning ordinance to accommodate whatever the new bill is saying we need to. So in some ways, this is uncharted waters because specifically the new legislation does not allow us to use a conditional use permit process, which is how we have administered accessory dwelling units for many years. So quite frankly, I'm not sure exactly what that means for our administration of ADU permits in the immediate future. I've been in discussions with town council and obviously reviewing the resources from NHMA. I think it's pretty clear that we will only be reviewing them through the building permit process as is required by the new bill, but to what extent we can still hold whatever ADU applications come our way in the next 8 months to some of the standards in our ordinance. We're still figuring that out, because some of the things that we have controlled in various ways, like an interior door and things, we can't control anymore. So we just have to figure out exactly what pieces we can. Obviously, we can't change the zoning ordinance in July. So until at least next town meeting, we're just going to have an ordinance that we can't actually follow. We are not alone. There are, I'm willing to take a guess, 3/4 of the towns in the state are in this position right now, because basically every town wrote their ordinances to match the 2016 bill, and there are pieces of that have now changed by this bill. So, we're figuring it out. We're trying to do it as quickly as we can to figure out the process, and that's that. There's other components that we have to look at for next zoning amendment season that also are in our ordinance that we will have to change how we interpret between now and then. One being the definition of a family. You cannot use the actual familial connection to define occupancy anymore, and we have that in our ordinance, so we'll need to take a look at that. We need to look at our parking regulations. There's really only one spot in the zoning ordinance, and it's in the ADU section that speaks to parking requirements. Most of our parking requirements are in our site plan review regulations, which can be amended on a typical public hearing process, so we can tackle that sooner. And then, honestly, there's a whole additional list of things that I just don't have off the top of my head, but we're trying to accommodate all of them. It was an active legislation season. And obviously
Regards to
piled on
housing.
at the very end. So we're figuring it out. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Adam.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Rich?
We had, on July 14th, the Municipal Budget Committee for the town had a meeting. Largely, it was focused on some work that Chris and Charlie had done to establish a sort of a more aggressive, for lack of a better term, approach to how they were going to review the budget going forward. A lot of talk about sort of what their hopes and expectations might be for the heads of our departments and things like that in terms of the information that they're going to be looking for as they try and sort of do an analysis of the budget going forward, things like that. And there was a fair amount of conversation back and forth as to what is the appropriate level of requests, if you will, for information that's going to be utilized going forward. And so that sort of seemed to be an ongoing debate, even within the MBC, in terms of what folks think is appropriate and what expectation should be for information and things like that. And a lot of discussion even about what the appropriate purview of the Municipal Budget Committee is versus what the purview of the Select Board is, et cetera, and at what level are we potentially micromanaging things, those sorts of things. So it was just sort of an open, ongoing conversation with some significant disagreement amongst the participants as to those appropriate levels.
I think, I know that Chris wants to have a joint meeting with Selectmen to talk through some of their recommendations. I know Ashley's been meeting with department heads to get their view on that memo as well, so that will be to come, obviously. So we're not going to talk about it tonight, we'll talk about it at a future meeting. Plus, it wasn't on the agenda, so. Okay. The only committee meeting I attended was the Rec Commission meeting. What day was that? Also Monday, July 14th. It was that's a great group. That is a great group, those Rec Commission members. They are so excited about programming. They're throwing out so many ideas. The feedback on the Strawberry Festival was great. I think everybody really felt like it was a real, true community event for the first time in a long time, almost. It feels like it's taken 5 years to come out of the pandemic, and that it was such a great attendance at that thing, and it really was a great feeling. So I enjoyed attending that meeting, and we talked about, you know, bringing in other volunteers and things like that. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I'll probably go to the next one. And that's all I've got this month. Yeah, okay. So I think we are done. Meeting minutes. Are we ready to approve a couple of meeting minutes? So can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes for June 18th and July 2nd? Okay, so we'll just do June 18th. May I have a motion all right. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Upcoming meetings, Planning Board, Tuesday, July 22nd, Rec Commission, Tuesday, August 4th, Board of Selectmen, our next meeting is Wednesday, August 20th? That doesn't sound right. Okay, so Monday, August 4th. Next Selectmen's meeting is 2 weeks from tonight, I think. Oh, my gosh. Oh, yeah, because July 20th. All right, so we're going to ignore these dates at the moment and update them on the agenda that's posted on the website. And we are going to be here signing things for a little while, if anybody wants to stick around and ask questions. Thank you.